Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Wherever you are in the world, welcome to another edition of Jerry's Take on China, and I'm Jerry. On Twitter, a couple of days ago, I was accused of being curt and lacking in empathy. And the reason was that I suggested to the original poster of this tweet, who was expressing dissatisfaction with China's COVID response, that we have options. We all have freezers, we can stock up. We all have Wi-Fi and TV channels, we can entertain ourselves. And we, all the foreigners amongst us, have options. If we want to, we could go home. In a 280 character limit, it's very hard to express proper feelings and real emotions. So I decided that I would reply in this format. I'm not really looking for sympathy here, but when you hear how my COVID pandemic has been, you'll probably feel some sympathy. What I do have is the hope that no one has to go through what I've gone through and how much worse it was because of COVID. I have been locked down in 2020 for nearly 7 weeks. Our entire city, Zhongshan, was locked down because we had a total at that time of 87 cases, none of which died. It was early in the pandemic, and I did wonder what all the fuss was about. I actually left China myself. After 16 years of living here and being married and owning an apartment, I decided that, having turned 60 the previous year, getting out of China to another country for a year or two would be worthwhile. It didn't work out. No one in Southeast Asia wants to employ a teacher from China, and I returned into a 2-week quarantine. So please understand, despite the appearance in a tweet, I'm not lacking in empathy. When I say we have choices, I made one, and I returned to China as what was the best option for me at that time. Someone else suggested to me that this person might be invested in China, might have family and school business arrangements, and therefore getting out isn't a simple option. Likewise, I'm invested in China. I have a wife and a family. I've been here nearly 2 decades. I own property. I've retired from full-time work to live my life here. And because I've been here so long, I've seen so much. I'm even more supportive of what China is doing. Poverty alleviation, infrastructure building, health management, a variety of other factors that make China one of the world's best and strongest economies with the lowest inflation. So if we're really going to be critical about China, it should be done with this in mind. A long-term resident has experienced all the benefits of growth with perhaps some of the inconveniences of lockdown, and these need to be measured together and balanced. That growth would not have been possible without those inconveniences. Now, when I say I support China's dynamic COVID-0 policy, it's because of the following reasons. First of all, I recently made a short video of COVID orphans. There are over 200,000 children in America who have lost a carer or parent to COVID. These are not aged or infirm people. These are parents in the prime of their life. And this tells me that COVID, despite claims that it's no worse than flu, is actually considerably worse than flu. In my own family, I have a brother whose entire family work in the National Health Service, and they've all been affected. 2 of his children suffered total loss of smell and taste. The last time I spoke with him, I don't know if it's back yet, it wasn't. Another brother in a different part of the UK has a son. At 38 years of age, he was bedridden for weeks and unable to climb stairs without assistance. Again, this is all evidence that this is more than just a simple cold or a flu. My uncle retired to Spain. He called his son, my cousin, to let him know he wasn't feeling too well. My cousin told him, "I'll get on a flight tomorrow." The following morning he arrived at my uncle's home to find my uncle had passed away. These are the reasons I'm in support of not allowing this to rip through our society. Not until China is a lot better prepared with vaccines, therapeutics, and enough hospital beds to cope with the problems that are completely foreseeable. These problems are foreseeable because we've seen them and are seeing them in the USA and the UK. We're witnessing them right now in Australia, a country with wide open spaces and hardly anything that we would recognize as population density. They've lost 10,000 people and the numbers are still rising. We all know that the UK has 200,000 and the US stopped counting at just over 1 million COVID deaths. So China's dynamic zero COVID policy is the only viable option if lives are to be saved. To say my answer was curt was also correct. And I apologize and accept that criticism. The original poster, I would apologize to him, but has blocked me rather than engage with me. This 280 character does create bland responses. I do my best to remain polite, but short tweets are not the best way to convey any form of nuance, and I apologize for that. One reason for my curtness is something I don't talk about very much on Twitter, and that is the loss of my own son. On January the 19th, 2021, after a 4-year battle with cancer, my son finally passed away. I watched his life deteriorate through the lens of a phone camera. I watched his coffin go into an incinerator on a video stream. And after watching this service and seeing my ex-wife and my daughter go through that version of hell without being able to give them the hug that we all needed, and that was bad enough that we should go through this, something no person should ever have to do. But to do so through a video link makes that doubly hard. I made a decision. I saw my son for the last time in November 2019, before COVID started. I had planned to see him again in a few months. Because of travel restrictions, that was deemed impossible. We all hoped he would see his 40th birthday in February last year, but he missed that by 3 weeks. I'd hoped to be there for it. When I was told he was not going to make it, I inquired about a one-way ticket to Sydney. It was going to cost me $12,000. I'm a retiree, and that was impossible for me to find. I was also told that I would need to enter 2 weeks quarantine in Sydney, and due to Australian regulations at that time, I would need to apply for permission to travel to Brisbane, where my family live. On arrival in Brisbane, despite 2 weeks quarantine in Sydney, I would have needed 2 more weeks quarantine there, all at my own expense. Another $4,000 to $5,000 added to that plane price. Imagine knowing that someone you love is about to die and being forced to spend 4 weeks in 2 different hotel rooms before you have an opportunity to see them. That's what I would have done, and I would have been too late anyway. The pain I experienced got worse because my daughter-in-law felt I hadn't tried hard enough and has now removed all contact between me and my grandchildren. She's literally blocked every form of social media and taken our grandchildren out of our lives. So for this reason, I am very sympathetic to people in lockdown. And I'm not looking for any sympathy. I mention this because I want people like you to know that I understand the pain, the discomfort, and the inconvenience that lockdowns bring. And I don't think there are many people who have a story more deserving of sympathy. And I've deliberately not told this story to many people outside of my very close friends and my family. My final reason for being upset with this original post was the use of the word arbitrary. When he talked about lockdowns, there's nothing arbitrary about these. They happen in the smallest scale possible, with mass testing to ensure that that scale doesn't need to be expanded. China's policy is costing this government millions of RMB every single day. I've personally been tested more than 5 times in the last 2 weeks since I came back from a short trip to Hunan, and then while I was in Hunan I was tested twice. Then I needed a test 24 hours to get off before I got on a train to travel here, and in the last month I haven't had to pay for any of them except 2 of them here in Jiangsu, where I am now. They were free in Zhongshan. 20 kilometers from where I live, my wife and I have found that there is a case. It didn't affect us in any way. I'm grateful to the dozens and dozens of volunteers on each of these testing sites. I know some of them personally, and I know the work that they're doing in the heat that they're doing it. I'm not annoyed that the government is asking us to do these. It is an inconvenience because they know there are no cases in our area and they allow the area to continue operating normally. Being sensible, I accept that if there is a case near me, we'll be subject to another lockdown. So, at home I have a freezer stocked with foods that we might need, something any sensible person should be doing during this period of uncertainty. Now, I hope no one ever needs to go through the pain I've been through in the last 18 months. And it's for this reason I fully support what China does, and I hope that until better therapeutics, higher efficacy vaccines, and the Chinese medical system is confident enough to handle an epidemic of the sort that Australia is currently experiencing, that China continues with this policy. I also hope that we, Westerners, foreigners and guests in the country, should accept it with gratitude rather than sarcasm and or critical commentary. If you have anything else that you'd like to add to this, as always, please leave a comment and I will try and get back to you and answer any questions. Thanks once again for watching Jerry's Take on China. See you next time.